Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Deborah Razo, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together. And like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go all the way up to today. And we want to talk about what you're working on with the Women's Real Estate Network and anything you're working on for tomorrow. Okay.
Sounds great.
I'm so excited to have you here. So were you born?
I was born in the Panama Canal Zone.
There you go.
My father was in the service. So,
oh my goodness, how cool is
I
that?
was the baby of the family.
Yeah.
So, and all that goes with that, right? My brothers and sisters, still reference me that way, say, yeah, she's the spoiled one.
Oh, there's some advantages to that.
There are.
So you were born in the Panama Canal area. Where did you grow up?
I really grew up in Northern California, and then I transferred down to Southern California to go to school. And I ended up here because I got married and had children and got divorced and, the typical LA life, I guess.
Yeah. So you're in Los Angeles now?
I am in Los Angeles now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years. I've always had my own businesses. I don't know, I guess I have that fire in my belly. And so that's always been something that I've had, but honestly, about 14 years ago was when there was a real turning point in my life.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of people experience turning points, right? So, for me, it was a car accident, and I know, I had this opportunity to start over. And I didn't see it that way at the time, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I was actually a passenger in an SUV, and it was as simple as, a blown tire. But what happened was we went into the dirt in the side of the road and got off the freeway because, I actually was thinking, oh, we're going to hit another car. And then, and we went into the dirt, but the rim of the tire that was blown dug into the dirt and it flipped. So it flipped driver's side first. So me, the passenger, got the brunt of the impact. And I was eventually airvac to a hospital where my head wound was put back together and I was told I had a broken neck.
Oh my goodness.
And that was just really, for me, the beginning of a different journey.
Yeah.
And I know, a lot of other people have things happening in their lives, right? For some people, it's, the death of a loved one, or maybe if, you get fired from a job and, there's this feeling of, okay, what's next?
Right.
It kind of clears the slate. And I think you don't really see the blessing at the time, but for me, I had about a year to heal, which was really a remarkable year. And I had a lot of time to think.
Yeah.
And my thoughts went to, what do I really want in my life? Life is short, right? I had this brush with death, right? And I was like, life is short. I need to live it how I really want to live it. And don't get me wrong, I didn't have a bad life, but it wasn't really what I wanted. I had become an entrepreneur because, I thought that it was going to give me this beautiful free lifestyle. And what I had really done is I had made my own job. Like most entrepreneurs out there, right?
It's true.
Yeah. And I wanted that thing called passive income. I didn't exactly know what that was at the time, but I read this little purple book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Love that guy.
I know. And then I thought, yeah, I need to get me some of that. And I literally started Googling things after I was healed. And my brother, who is like sainthood, came out and took care of me a lot of that time. And I was a single parent and had 2 kids in high school. So it was a really trying time.
Yeah.
He came out and took care of me. And during that year, we had a lot of time to talk. And he said, Deborah, if you really want to change your life, you're going to have to change here first. You're going to have to change your mindset first. And he had done a bunch of Tony Robbins events. And he's like, maybe when you're better, you can do some Tony Robbins events. And sure enough, after the doctors had signed off on me, I did my first Robbins event. And then I dug in, I started drinking the Kool-Aid. And I actually now work for him. So
I'm a Kool-Aid drinker too.
Yeah.
I was certified in sales mastery by Tony Robbins 35 years ago.
Oh my God. I've heard of that program.
Yeah.
So I'm a trainer for him. So he flies us out to events, or we help online now, and we help others transform. So and that also gave me the mindset to growing a different type of life. And I ended up going into real estate, and I wanted passive income. That was my outcome, like to lead a life of more freedom, And I didn't have any money. My brother loaned me some money, and I flipped a house. And then with that money, I started buying, single families. So I still have a small portfolio of single family residents in Memphis, Tennessee. And then I grew my skill sets, and I started developing here in LA. And then I started buying multifamilies, and then I started the Women's Real Estate Network, which is oddly like kind of a combination of wanting that financial independence, but also helping other women achieve the mindset that they can do whatever they want to, right? So it's been kind of a merge and a love of those two things. So it's been quite a journey, both of like growing and changing internally, and then that being reflected externally.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people, I mean, me included, like, there's fear in change. There's, there's uncertainty, and sometimes you embrace it and it's exciting, and sometimes you're paralyzed by it, and
it's the fear of the unknown, right?
I've been
you
through
fear that
all
the most of anything.
Yeah. So it's been a kind of a crazy journey these last 14 years. So,
That's awesome. So let me ask you a couple of questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
So growing up, what was your favorite thing about growing up where you grew up?
I liked, I grew up in a smaller town, so it was very neighborhood like we would go out in the street and play kickball in the evenings, like the mothers would come out and call, it's time for dinner, and then that's the only time you kind of came in.
Right.
So it was a very safe community, and there was that feeling of being known on the block, and being able to play all the time. So that was
what town was it?
It's a little small town in Northern California called Vacaville.
Okay. Yeah. I know of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've been there. That's cool. So you grew up in Vacaville. Did you go to high school there?
I did. There was only one.
Yeah. It's a tiny place. So did you have a favorite subject in high school?
Math.
Yeah.
I was a math geek. I still am a math geek.
I love that.
I love my numbers. I love, spreadsheets.
Yeah. So growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
My math teacher.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So he was married to the math teacher in junior high. The high school math teacher was married to the math teacher in junior high.
Oh, it's a family thing.
Yeah. So it was kind of cool. And they used their math in really interesting ways. Like they were kite experts.
Okay.
And they would, use the dimensions of the kites and to get the maximum flight time and all that kind of stuff, which was kind of fun and creative way to use math.
Yeah. And physics too, kind of an application. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was really intriguing to me. And I loved that they had this creative side to them.
That's so cool. So you leave high school. Where do you go?
I went to Sacramento State University, and then I transferred there down to UCLA, and that's how I ended up in LA.
So you're a Bruin.
I am.
I
Woo,
love it.
woo, woo.
I love it. That's so cool. So's my brother-in-law, by the way. Shout out to the Bruins,
Bruins
right?
are the best.
UCLA, baby.
Yeah.
So what was your degree in? What was your major?
Well, I thought I wanted to be a business major, but there was no such thing. So I became an economics major.
Oh,
And economics was a lot more studying economic history
yeah.
than I was cut out for.
Oh,
And my 5th year, I really wanted to graduate. I was done being like a poor student.
yeah.
And I went into the counselor and I was like, what could I graduate with the classes I've taken? She's like, sociology. I'm like, I'm there.
Yeah.
Get
I'm
me
out of
in.
here.
So
Yeah.
I ended up being a sociology major.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so you get out of school, you
Yeah.
have a degree. Where do you
Yeah.
go from there?
I love the music industry. I love music. I've always
Yeah,
loved music.
I
And
do too.
I got a job as a receptionist at a small music company.
Oh, cool.
And so, and that was just really fun. And I got the opportunity to grow in the
Was that
company.
in LA?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And the company was really small. So I
Yeah.
got, I got the opportunity to grow. And eventually I started doing coordinating the photo shoots for publicity. And
Oh,
then the woman who headed up the creative department said, "You've got a really good eye. Maybe you should come over to our department." And I did. And I was a volunteer workaholic. I found something I really loved. Like when you find something you really love, where you look up and you've been doing it for hours and you don't even realize that you've been doing it for hours.
time flies. Yeah.
Yeah. So I became a graphic artist.
Oh,
And
cool.
I got to do album covers and things for,
Oh,
artists.
how
So
awesome.
it was really cool. And eventually I worked myself up to the head of that department.
Yeah.
And that was really fun. Like it was a great time.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you're in graphics. How long were you in that? How long did you work for that company?
Gosh, I think I worked for them about 7 years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I met
Where'd
my
you go after
husband
that?
there. He worked at the company.
Yeah.
So we got married and I got pregnant and then I had a baby.
Mhm.
And then like everything was topsy-turvy. Like I guess I hadn't realized that I was at work a lot,
Yeah.
right? So becoming a mother was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot more to this.
Yeah.
And I was just overwhelmed. And so we decided that I'd come home. And that's what I did. And so I was an at-home mom and I thought, well, maybe I'll go work for another company just as an artist instead of running a department, because
Right.
it's a lot to run a department. And
And it gets you
honestly,
out of the house a little bit, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, a producer that I worked with at the company called me and said, "Hey, I heard you're home. Do you think you could design this album while you're at home?"
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, sure.
Why
She
not?
sleeps a lot. And honestly, that was the beginning of my first business, you
Wow.
know. So I started designing just when she was sleeping, and then I had another baby, and now I have two, and now I have a marriage that's falling apart.
Oh,
And I just, had this decision, like I could either, give the kids to someone to raise and I'll go get a job, or I could try to make something of this business that I
right.
started kind
Right.
of inadvertently. And I decided to try to make something of the business I started. So that was my first business. And it
Wow.
was
That's
so much
cool.
fun and it was really great. And I was really blessed,
And
you
it
know.
freed you up so you could work from home
Yeah.
and raise the kids, and that's awesome. So
Yeah,
it gave
so
you
I
that
had time
flexibility.
flexibility, like if I
Yeah.
needed to pick up the kids from school or they had an event or whatever, I didn't have to worry about any of that. And I could work at night or work really early in the morning and, get all my work done. And eventually I grew the studio and I had other people working for me, and it was really great, so
That's awesome. So what
yeah.
made you get out of that business?
Well, while I was running that business, I also started, my entrepreneurial spirit had been ignited. And I started joint venturing with other businesses too. So I've had several different businesses. Some of them have been sold off, and some of them have crashed and burned.
Yeah. Welcome to the
That
world of an
that's the life
entrepreneur,
of an
right?
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And my business started retracting because of the new ages of digital, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I come from an era where we used to have like these big liner notes, and there was a lot put into things, and I started getting really narrowed down to specialty, gift sets and boxes because, of my expertise. But now now I'm designing something that's just this little graphic for, Apple Music, or,
Mhm.
it really changed. And,
Mhm.
whole industry changed, and so did all the marketing for it, and so did all the books. And honestly, I was ready for a change,
Yeah.
and then my accident happened, and
Oh,
then I was ready for a big change.
yeah. Then it was like life got turned on its head, and let's figure something
Really,
out here.
yeah, for me, not to me,
Yeah.
really, even though I don't think I realized it at the time,
Yeah. Well, it's
so
hard when you're in the middle of this battle, right? And you're trying to get back on your feet, and you're trying to make things work, and you've got you said two kids in high school,
yeah,
I mean, I
yeah.
mean, having two kids in high school is enough, right? Pile onto that the fact that you're trying to get back to where you can walk again and function again,
Yeah,
and do all the things that you need to be able to do.
yeah,
Wow. I mean,
yeah.
that's a tough time. Thank God for your brother.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And speaking hope into me, and understanding that this is just a period of time,
Yeah.
right? And that, things will I'll find my way, right?
Yeah.
And I did, and now I look back at that and I think, oh, this was actually a great turning point for me.
Yeah.
I got to see things in a different light. And
Well, and the best thing about it is now you're a spokesperson for life can go back, life can improve, right? You can get through this.
yeah,
You can look at this a certain way. And sometimes the way you look at it is the difference between surviving this and thriving
yeah.
and failing, right?
It is. Yeah. And I think even more than that, life doesn't have to be where it is right now.
Yeah.
Like I think there was a part of me that felt like life would just have continued on, and I would have never gotten the time freedoms and the physical freedoms that I enjoy right now if that
Right.
hadn't happened.
Right.
And I think it's because, I mean, I don't know. I was I was, born to two. I'm first generation American. My father's Mexican and my mother's Irish,
Mhm.
and neither one of them were, born in the United States. They
Mhm.
came here, and I think, in that environment, I was taught keep your head down,
Mhm.
work hard, pay
Mhm.
your bills, don't dream too much. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So I think, when this happened for me, I was like allowed to desire a different life.
Right.
I gave myself permission,
Right.
and I think that really changed things for me,
Yeah.
and in a really positive way. And it also like influenced my children too,
Mhm.
and part of the reason I did it was for my kids. Like I'm like, okay, I'm at a turning point. I need to, make lemonade out of this.
Right. Right.
And so what, be an example of what can happen, what's the possibilities and what can happen if you want it to for my
Yeah.
kids. And that's been a really cool thing to see them now, because now they're kind of adults. They are adults. They're
Yeah.
in their 30s. Listen to
Oh,
me.
well.
I still think, oh, they're kind of adults.
Well, to me, my kids are 23 and 25, right? I look at my 23-year-old daughter and she's still 6.
Isn't that
It's
funny?
crazy. You know what I mean? It's like I see her and she's in my eyes, right? It's crazy. I mean, I could not be more proud of the woman she's become,
Yeah.
right? Could not be more proud of her if I tried. Couldn't be more proud of my son, who's
Right.
25, if I tried, right? I just every time I look at them, I see, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I know, and
hard to
it's
imagine.
funny. My son is, doesn't he lives out in DC, Washington DC now, and he came home at the holidays, and I mean he's a full grown adult living on his own, right? Like, and yet there's a part of me that's like, "Are you hungry? I'll fix you
Yeah.
something," and
Yeah.
he's like, "Yeah." So there's this part of us that wants to keep that.
You go back into those roles, right? Right. Yeah.
Like,
It's,
just
I
for a
mean,
minute.
I see it too. I see it too. I mean, my son comes to town, we load up on bananas. Why do we load up on bananas? Because he eats every 15 minutes, right? And we don't eat that many bananas in this house. It's just me, my wife, and my daughter, right? And
Right.
so all of a sudden, I know he's coming to town. Within 24 hours of him coming to town, there's a big thing of bananas on the counter in the kitchen. I
Yeah,
know he's coming to town, right?
right.
And by the time he leaves, that bunch will be practically gone because he'll eat Thanksgiving dinner. I'm not joking. He'll eat Thanksgiving dinner. He'll eat enough for 3 people. 15 minutes later, he's in my mother's kitchen because we're at my mom's house, right? He's in my mother's kitchen grabbing a banana.
Isn't that funny?
It's fun. It's just, it'll knock you. It's like, what? Like, we're all sitting there trying to figure out how we're going to digest what we just ate, right?
Right.
And he's literally in there grabbing a banana. It's like, yeah.
But it's those things that
And it's
make
never
it-
changed.
right.
It's never changed. It's like every meal he eats, 15 minutes later, he's grabbing a banana. It's like, what? So yeah.
It's those things though that make it fun and unique and
Oh, sure.
still like, oh, I'm still your parent, you're still my kid.
Yeah. Well, and Tony, we hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.